Now, the Centers for Disease Control report there have been a dramatic increase in obesity in the United States over the past 2 decades, and that has led to an increase in the number of medications aimed at weight reduction. And that could be good news for some investors. My next guest, Adam Cutler, he is a managing director and biotechnology analyst at Canaccord Genuity. He covers the pharmaceutical sector. Adam, good to have you with us on Bloomberg.
Happy to be here.
Now, one of the big issues having to do with obesity, just from a health perspective, is it creates a great cost to the healthcare system because of increased risk of diabetes and all the other hypertension, related to obesity, right? I mean, this is a real marketplace.
Absolutely. About a third of the country at this point is obese, and about $150 billion spent on medical care related to obesity.
So there's a big market for anything that would help reduce the amount of obesity out there.
Absolutely. A very big opportunity.
Okay. Now, you cover companies that are planning to put into the market drugs that would have to be approved, obviously, by the FDA, and they're prescription medicines, right?
That's correct.
Now, what about Arena Pharmaceuticals? Because we noted today the stock dropping tremendously, mainly because the FDA saying, not so fast. We want more information about your obesity drug, and you're going to have to resubmit your application to us. What's happening?
That's right. Well, it's been very challenging to get any new drug through the FDA process. That's particularly so in the category of weight loss drugs. So Arena had a negative recommendation from an outside advisory committee to the FDA. The FDA subsequently issued them a letter saying they wanted more information. The news today was Arena saying that they've met with the FDA and they feel that they have a handle on what they need to do in order to satisfy the FDA and resubmit to try again for approval of the drug.
And what's the issue with the Arena drug? Because the Arena CEO speaking about a particular element that is used in this drug that causes, tumors in rats.
That's right.
But apparently has already been looked at by the FDA, and they say it doesn't cause breast cancer tumors in humans.
Right. So there's a question about some preclinical studies, some studies done in rats that did show an increased risk and increased incidence of certain types of cancers. So the concern, of course, is whether or not that same risk will occur in humans. So we haven't seen that in humans, but we haven't seen the drug studied in many, many thousands of patients over many years. That's not generally how these things are done. So what the company believes is that they can do some additional studies, mostly in animals and a little bit in humans, to show that the same risk that occurs in animals is unlikely to occur in humans, and therefore they believe that the drug should be approved.
What is your take on Arena Pharmaceuticals right now?
My take is that it's possible that the drug could be approved someday, but I think this is going to take a long time. I think it may be more complicated than it appears on the surface. So we're currently not telling investors to buy Arena Pharmaceuticals stock.
Okay, so hold off on Arena Pharmaceuticals, but there's another company, Orexigen, and they've got a drug, Contrave. Where are they in the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration approval process?
Sure. Well, they're one of 3 companies that has this year tried to get approval for an obesity drug, Arena being one of the others, Vivus being the last. All 3 were reviewed by outside advisory committees to the FDA. Orexigen's drug Contrave was the only one that received a positive vote recommending approval of that drug.
So what's the time frame? I mean, what happens next?
Sure. Well, the date by which the FDA is supposed to decide on approval is January 31st of next year. Given that it's been difficult for the FDA to meet a lot of their deadlines, and given that that recommendation was only made on December 7th, it's very likely that there could be a delay beyond January 31st. But it's our opinion that we think there's a high probability, of approval of that drug sometime next year.
All right. So a high probability of the approval of Contrave, which is made by Orexigen. They have another drug, Empatic. What's that like? What's the likelihood that that gets to market?
Sure. Well, that one still needs to undergo a little bit more clinical testing. So the data has been very promising in phase 2B clinical studies, very impressive efficacy, what looks like an acceptable safety profile, but it hasn't yet been through phase 3 testing, and the company is hoping to find a partner for that drug to help share the costs and the risks associated with those phase 3 studies before they advance that drug any further.
And in the meantime, what are you recommending to investors who are looking at this obesity market? What about Orexigen shares?
We're big bulls on Orexigen shares. It's one of our top picks going into 2011. As I mentioned, we think the drug gets approved next year. The company also has the benefit of having a very strong marketing partner already in place to help them market the drug in the United States, at Takeda.
Takeda, the Japanese pharmaceutical company.
Exactly. So Takeda is a very strong marketing company. They also have a diabetes drug that's been historically a very strong seller for them in Actos that goes off patent next year. So this is going to be a company that is going to have excess sales capacity and presumably motivation to try to make.
I was going to say they got a lot riding on the possibility that Orexigen's Contrave actually works.
That's right.
What about Vivus? They've got a drug, Cunexa, right? Cunexa. What is the likelihood that Cunexa actually reaches the market?
Well, we think that the likelihood is high that they get approval sometime in 2011. They were the first one to go in front of an FDA advisory committee meeting. The committee recommended against approval at that time, and the FDA has since issued a letter asking for additional information. And what the company has told investors is that they have a meeting scheduled with the FDA in January to review what they plan to resubmit. And we think that they have data in hand, some of which has been generated from studies that were ongoing at the time of the original application that have since completed that should enable them to get approval for the drug sometime next year.
So you sound bullish on the shares of Vivus as well?
That's right.
All right, so you like Vivus, you like Orexigen, you got a hold right now on Arena Pharmaceuticals.
Correct.
All right, I want to thank you very much. Adam Cutler coming to us from Canaccord Genuity, sharing some insights into the possibility of making money on obesity drugs reaching the market. Thank you.